Thank you both. So before we get into the agenda tonight, I do just want to go over some housekeeping rules. So if you are unable to hear me, if you cannot see our slides, or if anything is acting weird or any technology issues, please log out and log back in using your post-university email. For some reason, the post-university account with Microsoft works better than your personal account. And we do also have recordings of most of our workshops, so we will provide a recording of our YouTube channel. Dan just put it in the chat as well. So in case I go a little bit too fast or you do want to refer back to what we went over, because this is some important information, please refer back to our YouTube channel. Already went through Spotlight. We already went through technology issues. So we are going to be going over a Q&A session. So as you can see, we do have an agenda for tonight. So please make sure you keep topics for questions since we are going to be going over a Q&A at the very end of this workshop to tonight's topic only. We want to make sure these are relevant questions. So we are not financial aid, we are not student accounts, and we are not your professors. So any questions that are not relevant to tonight's presentation, please just make sure you give the advising line a call. I am putting the advising line number in the chat right now, so that we still have some advisors on until around 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we do want to make sure you guys have enough time to watch this workshop and also help answer your questions. We also have more advisors available tomorrow at around 8:30 Eastern time. So without any further, we are going to get started. So for the agenda tonight, we are going to be talking about academic voice, what they are, some examples of it, some embedded quotes. Again, what is it? Examples of it, just so you guys know. Paraphrasing, signaling, tips for improving your overall academic writing, creating an outline, resources, and of course our Q&A sessions. So I know we have some sources. If you guys are having a hard time seeing where we got our resources from, I did just put it in the chat. Beautiful. Heidi, I'm so glad you got in touch with your professor. We can definitely speak about it towards the end of the workshop if needed. But so now we're going to be focusing on what academic voice is. So for academic voice, it's a little bit different than how I'm talking to you guys right now. So notice how I am saying I because I'm speaking to you all in the first person. So really when you're talking about academic voice, you really want to sort of talk about it in a third party voice. So you want to use declarative statements, avoid casual language. So I know in your first couple of courses, you learn how to write an email to your professors, to your academic advisor, and anyone at the school, really. So that's pretty much how you would write. You want to avoid casual language like, yo, or even if you're like texting, I've had some students like text me acting as if I was your friend. So we do want to make sure you avoid the casual language because I know we do it every day outside of work. So I always like to tell students, think of academic voice as if you're in a working environment and how you would speak there. So always be concise and precise. That is an easy way to remember it because it rhymes. So expand on simple facts and less is more. So we always say like it's okay if you are first starting a paper and you want to write everything that you know about the topic, but your professor wants a 3-page paper and you wrote 5 pages. It's okay. I am also responsible for doing that. I have a hard time making sure I'm precise and concise with my wordings. So we do want to make sure you guys understand that sometimes less is more, especially if someone already understands the topic. You don't have to go through the 5 W's, the who, what, where, why, and how, and then always use sources to back up your statements. Obviously, as students, you know that you do have to use citations because if it's not in your own thoughts, you have to make sure that you cite it. So avoid simple, especially when you are using academic voices. Some tips are avoid simple Google searches, so always use academic sources. We do have a workshop based pretty much on library resources, so a good way to find a resource, especially if your professor is asking for a peer-reviewed source or an academic journal, you might want to go to our Turing library. Not sure if I just butchered that name, but it is located on Blackboard. And if anyone needs help, if we have time, we can go over where you can find it on Blackboard for the library. And then finally, we're going to go over cite sources within paper and reference pages. So again, if it's not in your own words, please make sure that you are citing. We do have a whole workshop on APA references that I know we already put in the chat on our YouTube channel. We're not going to go over APA because I know a lot of students have questions on that. We're just going to go over general academic voices. And I know Beth just raised her hand, so Beth, you can for sure take over.
Yes, I just want to quickly say if you are interested in that workshop, it's actually coming up this weekend, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you would like to go over navigating the library, please feel free. That's going to be the library one. And then for APA styled writing, that is going to be on the 21st, 7 p.m. So we literally are covering these topics. They're coming up. So if you have questions, please save them for, again, APA the 21st or the library the 23rd.
Yeah. Okay, I also know we're going to go over academic voice examples. So Beth, I'm not sure if you want to roll the poll now or you want me to go through the slide first.
I would love to. And before we change the slide, I would like to ask everybody. So I'm going to put out a poll because I would like it to be a little interactive tonight, if everybody doesn't mind. And I'd like to see where we're at in terms of understanding what third person declarative language sounds like. So I'm going to set this poll up and I would like you to tell me which of the sentences uses third person declarative language? A second, it's launching. A box should have popped up on your screen. You can select one of the three and then press submit. It is anonymous, so please don't worry, you're not getting graded on this. I just want to get a general gauge before we start going over what is required in terms of the different uh, pieces of speech that you'll go over when we're going over this different academic writing requirements. So let's see. So far, I have 2 responses. I have 7 responses. Excellent. Keep 'em coming, folks. I have 10. Excellent. I'm gonna give it another 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, Carly, if you would like to go to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
For everybody who selected the last option, people, I said live chocolate. I should have said like chocolate. Ice cream more than vanilla. You were correct. People make it third person and declarative. People are, this is a statement. There's no question about it. There is no hesitation. It is a statement. Again, I apologize. There was a typo. But but for those who selected option C, congratulations. But Carly, if you'd like to explain what's on the
Yep,
slide now.
yep, absolutely. So as I stated previously, typically casual speaking is using I or you. And then as Beth just said, when you are talking about academic writing, you really want to use third person. So people like chocolate ice cream more than vanilla. It is very concise and straight to the point. So as you can see, an I statement example, which is what the first option was for those that did the poll, was I like chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla. Oh my God, I can't read. I believe chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla. That is an I statement and not necessarily academic voice. So that's similar to what's on the slide. I think that school uniforms better students by eliminating competition based on designer labels. And instead, you want to make sure that it's a declarative. Oh my God, Beth, I cannot pronounce that word either. Declaratory, whatever, statement.
We'll call it a
School,
deck statement, okay, everyone? Just for the
sorry.
sake of our abilities.
Oh God, can you tell it's late? So school uniforms benefit students by eliminating competition based on designer labels. Not only does it sound better, but it's also more concise or conciser, however you want to say it. And it flows better with what you're trying to say. So I know we have some more examples. So I know Beth has another poll for you all.
I do, and I want to just mention one more thing. I'm really proud that nobody selected the I statement, so great job. But for those of you who selected the you statement, please just note you statements are technically considered second voice. So I's are first, you second, people, they, if you're like utilizing like somebody else's like name, like if like Harry or Sally, that's third person. So if there's somebody else and it's not just a you me conversation, that's third party, that's third
Beth,
person. What?
I think I can make that easier.
Okay, make it easier.
Whenever you're referring to or whenever you're talking to directly to someone, it's either first or second. So when you're talking to your professor, don't be acknowledging the yous over there or the I's and me's between the conversation. Just focus on referring everybody in any form of the sentence. If you're referring to yourself in the paper, because sometimes you will, it would be one thinks, one does, one blah, 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 blah. So treat it as if it was a conversation and you're engaging to a populace and not a one-to-one conversation.
Exactly. Yes, perfect. So that's why, for those who selected you, why that didn't quite fit the mold. But the next question we are going to launch is, now I'm going to be very strict about this. This is Mama Beth coming on. I'm like not even playing around. I will shut this poll down very quickly if it gets inappropriate. So please, let's respect that this is a learning environment for everybody's benefit. I'm going to launch this poll, and I would like people to put in some slang or some common terminology nowadays that you might not use in papers. For example, maybe LOL or ain't, y'all. Um, if I have any of my Gen Zers, Riz, or like bread for currency. So like any slang. So I'm going to launch this poll, and I just would like people to think about different words, phrases that they think they shouldn't use in papers because it's not professional, because we're looking for professional language. So what would you consider unprofessional language? And again, the minute it becomes inappropriate, I close out the poll, and that's that. But I'm hoping I don't have to. Oh my gosh, amazing. Cute shoes. That's really funny. Vibing. Love that. Yes. SMH. Yes. Dem. Yes. I don't know what Pittsburgh is. If it's Pittsburgh, you can say Pittsburgh, but I'm assuming that's something else. You know what? I actually appreciate that somebody put the word good. You're absolutely right. There's always a word that's better than good. So while it's not the worst word, it's not like it's a big no-no. That's a really, really good thought to have in your mind. There's always something better than just good. There's a better way you can enhance your your communication. Bro, excellent. I'm gonna put y'all because I always say y'all, and like there's no way I could say y'all in the paper. Dude, excellent. Excellent. This is great.
Beth, if you're
Yes.
saying y'all in a paper, you're in second voice.
Exactly. See? So brilliant, 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 brilliant. Thank you to everybody who's participating. We have 18 responses so far, and I'm going to give it another 2 more seconds before I close it out. But Carly, if you would like to move on to the next slide, you are good to go.
Perfect. This is like one of the first few workshops we are doing polls, so I hope you guys like them. So this is pretty much what Beth was explaining. So casual language is, like I said before, is how we are speaking right now, exactly the examples that you guys are saying. So hey, let me get your opinion on this. When people tell a story, which do you prefer? A person who repeats themselves even if their point is already addressed, or someone who keeps it simple and gets to the point? So it really sounds like a casual conversation. If it sounds like a conversation, more than likely you probably have to reword it. So a formal academic language is people tend to enjoy speakers who do not repeat themselves, but who keep their message quick and to the point. In a fast-paced world, people prefer someone who can keep a story short and simple. So as you can see what we talked about earlier, we use third party, so we did use people instead of the first or second person. So like the y'all, the you, uh, I, or things like that. So this is really making sure we keep things concise. It sounds a little bit more formal, exactly what we were talking about. You start to get the hang of it. So I always tell my students, if you feel like it's a little bit more casual and you want it to be a little bit more formal, obviously have someone take a look and just to see, read it out loud. That has honestly helped me when I was writing my papers. Sometimes if I just read it out loud and something doesn't sound right, I would usually highlight it or mark it just to say we'll edit later to make it sure I sound a little bit more formal and have more of a academic writing style language. But I think that's, yeah, so we won't do a poll for a little bit. Right, Beth? We're not doing another poll till later.
Correct.
Beautiful. Okay. So now we're going to go over a little bit more detail about academic voices. So like we keep saying, concise is precise pretty much. You don't want it to have an overly complex sentence because again, sometimes if your professor is asking for 3 pages and you write 5, one big no-no, and you can definitely make sure it's more concise. So this is an overly complex sentence. At the present time, a total of 4 researchers summarized briefly the results of 2 different and varying group tests. Not only does it sound like a runoff sentence, but there's just a lot of adjectives and verbs that just sound way too much, and we can break it down into one sentence. 4 researchers summarize the result of the 2 group test. Sometimes that's all you need. You just want to make sure you keep it simple. Obviously, whoever's reading your paper can get right to the point of it, and it really does show that you are able to make sure you concise it and it just sounds so much better so that way you can spend a little bit more time on other examples and not just have this run-on sentence. But that's pretty much what concising means, is taking a long sentence and breaking it down into sometimes smaller sentences or even one sentence. If you are like me, who takes a while to get to the point about what they're saying, this has really helped me. So again, if you are reading it out loud and it sounds too wordy, highlight it, mark it down, so you will edit later and try to see if you can break it down to smaller parts. Sometimes you're not able to break it down and you might need to reword it. But again, we just want to make sure you guys know that keeping it simple and concise is really good. Perfect. Again, this is just like an example using precise academic words. So again, being precise and specific is really helpful. So instead of saying research, oh my God, I can't talk tonight. Researchers had a really good response to the survey. Obviously, you do not need really good. You could just say researchers had a 75% response rate to the survey. Again, that is all you need. Sometimes just keeping it simple, perfect. You already got to the point. Move on to something in terms of what you really want to explain more to the professor. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just reading the chat. So yeah, I love how everyone is still commenting on what we talked about in the poll. So I'm glad you guys like this. But this is, again, sometimes you just need to be specific and really concise and simple, and that's all you need. Now we're going to talk about embedded quotes, but is everyone okay with academic voice, making sure it's in the third person, keeping it precise and simple? Is everyone okay? Beautiful. So as you can just see, I just dropped down 7 slides into 3 bullet points. So that's my example of academic writing and how I was able to take a bunch of slides and was able to concise it into 3 bullet points. Okay. So now we're going to be talking about embedded quotes. So more natural ways of putting quotes into your writing while still citing the author. So a lot of the times when we are writing, oh, sorry. A lot of the times when we are writing, we tend to use similar verbiage of words, and that can be kind of run on. Your professor might see that a lot, or you might get annoyed with yourself for using the same words. So not only does this help improve the flow of your writing, but again, it just makes sure your paper when you're reading it is fairly flowy and it doesn't sound choppy at all, and everything just sounds smooth. So when you do incorporate embedded quotes in your own words within the quote, like I just said, it does transition smoothly and just sounds better. So it also creates a balance between your own words and those of the authors you have researched. So a lot of the times I do see, especially for me, when I am writing, I always see the author says, the author stated, this is what the author said. Like you just use those words a lot, especially when you are using quotes or you are paraphrasing, and it does sound too much. You want to make sure not only that you get rid of some of those, but just kind of know examples and how you can make sure your paper doesn't sound the same in every paragraph. So we do have an example right here and how you can make sure the sentence flows and not just a quote that you just put into the paper. In his influential work, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud argued that dreams are, and then they put the quote, expressing in coded imagery the dreamer's unfulfilled wishes through a process known as dream work. Obviously, we're not going to go over APA, that is later on this week, but this is a perfect example of not only how to use APA, but use an embedded quote, especially since you put in his influential work and not the author says. You were able to put it in concisely and be able to cite it correctly. This is a perfect example. It sounds very smooth. It doesn't sound really choppy, and it just transitions very well to what the student is talking about. So I know Dan just raised his hands if you want to mention us anything.
Thanks, Carly. Yeah, especially with quotes, as you can see here, this is not the perfect example because it's actually perfect size, but you will come across times in your writing, and Carly's going to get into this a little in a bit, but there are times when the quote is excessive to the point where it's taking up an entire paragraph. There are 2 options, but regarding the embedding quotes option, the best way to go about it is putting an ellipses, which is the triple dots, and then using the most important part of the quote.
Beautiful. Thank you. Exactly what Dan said. So does everyone kind of understand embedded quotes? Again, just making sure it flows a little bit better. You can obviously read the paragraph out loud again or have a second pair of eyes read that paragraph to make sure everything sounds flowy. If it sounds a little bit choppy, obviously make sure you reword it or work on it. But is everyone okay with embedded quotes so far? Pretty much what we talked about, just making sure you use your academic voice and how it will transition into your paper and making sure it doesn't sound choppy. Beautiful. I saw some hands raised. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to move on now to paraphrasing. And if we are going a little bit too fast, again, we do have a ton of things to talk about. We're only on slide 10 out of 21, and I want to make sure we have enough time to go over any questions students might have. And we'll also have a workshop at 8 o'clock. So apologies, but we do have a YouTube channel with this workshop already. So in case I go fast, you want to refer back to it, we'll put it in the chat again. But now we're going to talk about paraphrasing. So good paraphrasing skills are the hallmark of good academic writing. Not only does it help to make your argument to the reader in your own words, but it also allows you to validate your words through sources as you would if you're using quotes. So that's really important, especially if you are going to be citing work resources that are not in your own words, you're going to direct quote it or you're going to be paraphrasing. So not only does it greatly improve the flow of your paper, but it also shows that you understand academic writing and understand what you read, and your professor and whoever is reading your paper will understand that. So we're going to go over some examples and more details about paraphrasing. So I'm going to take a little bit of time with this. So this is an example of what we had. So according to Jones, childhood obesity should be treated like any other chronic disease, including through the use of medication. Sounds a little bit wordy, and obviously, since this is a short quote, we can definitely make it into our own words and concise it a little bit. So we do want to talk about Jones, since that is the author, has argued that childhood obesity should be viewed as a medical condition, and such treatment with drugs should be an option. So we took a direct quote, we understood what the author was trying to say, and then we used it in our own words, but also making sure that we give credit to the author. That's pretty much what paraphrasing is. It's taking what you have read from the author, putting it in your own words, and making sure you are citing and giving credit to the professor. So both of these passages speak to the need to treat childhood obesity as a medical condition. However, we use the paraphrase method as this demonstrates the author's knowledge of their research through their own words and not a quote. I can't tell you how many times I have read students' papers and all they use is direct quotes, which just means they not only didn't understand the topic, or maybe they were just a little bit lazy and just decided to just use direct quotes. Paraphrasing is really important because not only does it help you understand the material better, but it also shows your professor that you do have knowledge about the topic and you understand what's going on. So again, paraphrasing is taking what you read from the author's passage and putting it into your own words and making sure you cite it. So again, this is pretty much just more details about paraphrasing. Read and reread the selected source material to make sure you understand it thoroughly. So what I try to tell myself when I am reading a passage, try to summarize it by saying it out loud or writing it down. So I would read a paragraph and I would have a goal of writing what I just read in 2 sentences, whether it be talking about it out loud or writing it down. Whatever I put down is what I learned, and that's what I'm going to put in my paper. That is paraphrasing. So take notes as you read the passage. It should be in your own words, and make sure you give credit where credit is due. So what are the main points the author is trying to make? Obviously, when you read a paragraph, there are some main ideas, but you don't have to memorize every single thing the author has said, especially if you are using an academic journal, and those resources can be a little bit wordy. And like I just said, this is just some things that some students have done. So read and reread, take notes, put the original passage away, like I said. If you have a laptop, maybe close the laptop and write it down. Or if you have a physical book, close the book or the screen and then rephrase the passage in your own words, using your notes as your guide. So imagine you are trying to explain the concept to someone who knows nothing about it. I personally, when I was in college, especially during the COVID times, my parents were tired of me just talking out loud, so I went to where my dog was and I would talk to my dog. Obviously, they knew nothing what I was saying, but I always imagined that they were trying to understand what I was trying to say. So just make sure and act as if you're trying to explain it to someone. And when you are finished, check your paraphrase against the original. If you're wording too close or you have used any unique terminology from the author, consider embedding these as quotes within your paraphrase. Again, we do not want you guys to stray away from using direct quotes, but we also want you to be strong and feel confident in paraphrasing, because when you are using academic writing, in-text quotes as well as paraphrasing are going to be your strongest things, especially if you're trying to explain something and what you're professors are looking for and explaining what you have learned. So again, with paraphrasing, you can try read and rereading it, taking notes, put the original passage away, and just making sure you check your paraphrase and understand what you have read. And if it is too close or you feel that what the author has said is pretty good and you don't believe you can paraphrase it, maybe using a direct quote should be good instead. Beth did put a video about how to paraphrase in 5 easy steps. We have used Scriber YouTube channel in the past. They are great about breaking it down and making sure you understand the steps. So that is pretty much paraphrasing. Is everyone okay with paraphrasing?
And if you're not, just heads up, that's what the whole next hour is going to be on.
Beautiful. Okay, got a lot of thumbs up. Again, we want to make sure you guys feel confident. So we
I
are
want to
going to.
add something. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Hi,
okay.
everyone. I want to add something that I learned previously in school. Hi, everyone. My name is Camilla, by the way. I'm also an advisor here at Post. What my mentor said is read the sentence 3 times and then close your eyes and put it in your own words. And that is really helpful. So that's just to piggyback off of what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever works. It takes a long time, but I also know that really does help. So again, whatever you feel comfortable with. We also have a whole workshop dedicated in around 20 minutes about paraphrasing that Beth will go over. But now we are going to be talking about signaling. So signaling is also really important when we are talking about academic writing. So whether you paraphrase or quoted the material, it is important that you let the reader know whose turn it is in the paper. So again, remember how we talked about with academic writing and using a third person voice? We also want to make sure, especially for those reading the paper, we want to know whose turn it is. So we use like an analogy. So think of yourself as a conductor in an orchestra. You are the writer and you are in charge, and you want to make sure the orchestra knows when it is their turn to play the instrument. So if there is no signal phrase or citation attached to the idea, the assumption is that it came from you, and you do not want to use an assumption. As you guys know that little quote about assuming, I'm not going to say it out loud, but we just want to make sure you guys know, make sure you properly use signaling. So not only that you properly give credit where credit is due, but also that is want to make sure that's not in your own words to cite it properly. We're going to go over some examples. So if anyone has been taking notes, highly recommend taking a photo. But here are some examples of signaling. You can use according to, author states, points out, as stated in, argues, asserts, believes, as emphasized in. Again, like we said before, make sure you spread out these signaling words so that it transitions and flows smoothly in your paper. A lot of the time, students over obsess with signaling, and I get a lot of the times, like almost in each sentence, I've seen some papers in each sentence where it says, according to, John Smith points out. So we want to make sure, again, you can use signaling because it is really important, but do not overuse it because then it doesn't flow with your paper very well. So just make sure if you are using signaling, once you are done with your paragraph, read it out loud or have someone else read it because, like Dan said, not only does it help with the overall grammar, but it also makes sure and helps figure out if your paragraph sounds smooth and transitions very well, or if it sounds very choppy and you need to concise or reword some things. I'm just keeping on for another couple seconds before moving on. I just want to make sure those that are writing notes down know. Okay. Okay, so is everyone okay with signaling before we move on to tips to improve your academic writing? Again, I want to go back. These are not all the signal words that you can use, but these are some of the most common ones. Again, you can just look up signaling sentences online and you can obviously use that, but these are one of the most common ones. Okay, so tips to improve your academic writing. Again, what we just talked about, make sure you keep it simple, concise, but it will be effective in your paper. So use less quotes and more paraphrasing. Again, we do not want you to strive away from using direct quotes, but if you feel that if you paraphrase it, it doesn't grab what you're trying to get for your paper, like the overall idea, use a direct quote. But again, we do want to make sure you guys feel comfortable in paraphrasing because that's the overall idea with academic writing is making sure you understand what you have read and your professors will see that you understand the material. Focus on academic writing as dedicated time. So again, sometimes in order to improve your academic writing, it takes time. So don't feel that you're going to be an expert in academic writing and been able to write a good paper in one day. So obviously stay away from texting, social media while writing papers. Make sure you are not distracted. Because truthfully, when I was in college, I would get distracted, I will admit, and write a couple sentences, go on my phone, answer some text, and be like, oh, forgot I was writing a paragraph, and then try to finish the paragraph, and it would sound really awful and not what I want. So just make sure you focus on, say, writing a paragraph, taking a break, and then starting a new paragraph. We want to make sure you guys get breaks because those are important, but just make sure you dedicate your time and focus on your paper first to make sure you get your ideas and thoughts out before getting distracted. Always send feedback before assignment is due, especially if you do have time. So if your instructor does have some office hours, or if you want to send it out to a peer or the Center of Academic Success, I know one of the advisors will put it in the chat. But again, having a second pair of eyes or reading it out loud will benefit your overall paper because you can see what you need to work on. And again, obviously practice. We are not all experts here, and it does take time for academic writing. So if you are struggling a little bit in your first couple of terms, by the time you get to one of your final courses, it will be more comfortable writing papers and you won't feel overwhelmed, and you will be really proud of all the progress you have made. Beth did just put the Center of Academic Success info in the chat. So if you do want to take a look and have someone take a look at your paper, again, highly recommend it, but that's just tips on your overall academic writing. Is everyone okay with that so far before I move on? Perfect, perfect. I see a couple thumbs up. Okay, so now we're going to go over creating an outline, and I know we have another poll that's coming up. So Beth, if you want to take over on this part.
Yep, I want to see how much information y'all retain from these sessions. So let's see if I can trick you. Who do you need to reach out to if you need help outlining your paper? Your professor, your advisor, the writing center, or all of the above? Can any one of these people potentially help you? Please submit your answer. We have 4 responses so far. Excellent, excellent. 10 responses. Excellent. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, to everybody who said all of the above, you are correct. Technically, you can reach out to anyone and everyone. Your academic advisor is going to help get you to the right people. Your professor and the writing center are people who can support you in writing or setting up how you would like your paper to be organized, going over the assignment, what the positions your professor is trying to ask you to take a stance on, figuring out what your stance is, navigating the library, your professor, the writing center, navigating the library, your advisor can support with that. So we are all here to support in different ways. So please, by all means, utilize us as you are in different parts of your outlining journey. Carly, back to you.
Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to be going over our last topic. So we are going to be talking about creating an outline. So this is probably one of the most important things, especially if you are starting out in your academic journey with us and you have papers due and you can feel overwhelmed, especially since you might have papers due every week. But I promise you, if you have the time to create an outline, it will make it so much better for you to start and work on your paper. So, how do I write an outline? We are going to be just going through identify your topic or thesis statement. Decide what points you would like to discuss during your paper. Put your points in logical numerical order so that each point connects back to your main point, and write possible transitions between paragraphs. We already talked about some signaling words, but transitions are also very important because we do want to make sure that when you finish a paragraph that it sounds finished so that we can move on to the next paragraph. We do have an example of an outline, so I am going to probably share my screen because this is a little bit blurry. So let me just go to that slide so I can share my screen and you guys can see it. Perfect. I'm going to zoom in.
There you go. I see it. And also, just a heads up, I will be pasting what Carly is showing everybody in the chat. I will not be pasting the picture of it. I'm going to be pasting the writing itself. So you can copy and paste it into a document on your own. So you can literally save this for your own like books. So give me a moment. I'm organizing it, but this is going to be pasted in the chat as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Beth. So hopefully you guys can see all of this. I'll zoom in a little bit more. So this is what an outline might look like. So outlines are pretty basic. They're going to be really similar for each paper that you work on. So you're always going to have an introduction and thesis. You're going to have body paragraphs. How many you have really depends on the topic and how much you want to explain to your professor. And then you are going to have a conclusion and maybe sometimes a counterclaim, especially if you are doing some research papers. But again, that all depends. But this is just a basic outline, literally, of what an outline is. So for the introduction, you do want to focus on attention-grabbing sentence. So I don't want to see a sentence that's like, we are going to be talking about obesity among children. Obviously, obesity is really important, but it's not really grabbing to me. What I always tell my students, why should I read your paper? So for an example that we used here is small gestures of kindness can help change someone's outlook of their day. This is a really grabbing sentence because it's like, oh, what kind of gestures of kindness? How could it change someone's outlook? It grabs you to want to read more and explain why your paper is important to read. And then it might have a summary, so 2 to 3 sentences in why we are discussing the topic, exactly what I just said, what makes me want to read more of your paper, and make your claim or thesis statement here. So for this example, we used altruism can not only help others, but the person who is extending kindness can experience positive emotions as well because, and then whatever reasons you give, those are going to be what your body paragraphs are. Again, if you have any questions about how to create a thesis statement, go to the Writing Center, go to the Center of Academic Success. They can definitely help you with that. But this is just an outline. This is just an overview of what you're looking for and how to organize your thoughts.
And also, just a heads up, I'm dropping a link because I actually thought I was presenting this tonight, Carly. So I had a video ready for thesis statement. So I will also drop a link. So if you want any tips on writing a thesis statement, please check that video out.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm so sorry, guys. We only have like 10 minutes, so I do want to make sure we get through this whole presentation. But yes, if you want to go back and watch that video, definitely check it out. So for the body paragraph, it is going to be really similar. So you're going to have your topic sentence, evidence to explain what your topic sentence is about, so your reasoning, and then an explanation that supports your reasoning. For example, obesity is prevalent in younger children because of their environment. Say that's like one of the examples. Obviously, you want to be a little bit more specific, but I'm just going on the top of my head. But that could be one of your body paragraphs. So that could be my topic sentence. I would provide evidence of why obesity is prevalent because of food deserts, and then maybe have some evidence. Again, my evidence might be direct quotes. Obviously, I want to paraphrase, but just make sure you provide some explanations about why this is prevalent to your body paragraph. And again, you don't have to use 3 body paragraphs, but 3 body paragraphs is really common in essays. And then counterclaim if necessary. And then obviously you have your conclusion, which describes everything that you have talked about and bringing it all together to make sure you keep it concise and make sure you explain everything that you just talked about. Okay, so I know we don't have a lot of time, and I know Beth did put how to write a strong thesis statement. So if you have any questions about how to create a thesis statement or like what it is, highly recommend checking out that video in the chat. But overall, a thesis statement clearly states the main argument or point of an essay. So if it's in your thesis, it has to be in your body paragraphs. It helps summarize the author's position on a topic, and it helps outline the key points that will be discussed throughout the paper. So say exactly what I said. I could say obesity is a problem in, we're going to say in Connecticut because I'm in Connecticut, and then I'm going to explain why it's a problem. If I give 3 reasons why it's a problem, I'm going to write a body paragraph for each of those reasons. And then I will talk about exactly what we said. I will provide evidence. I will make sure I explain my reasons. And then I would also make sure I outline the key points that will be discussed throughout the paper. So for the example that we already talked about, altruism can not only help others, but the person who is extending kindness can experience positive emotions such as A, B, and C. I love this because A and B and C would be your body paragraphs. Every student learns a little bit differently, but that's just one of the ways that I really have kind of tricked my brain into thinking A is going to be body paragraph 1, B is going to be body paragraph 2, C body paragraph 3, etc. Again, I apologize. We don't have a lot of time to go over how to create a strong thesis statement, but Beth did put it in the chat. So if you have any questions about that, please make sure you watch the video, go to the Center of Academic Success or the Writing Center, and they can help you. But now we're going to pretty much just talk about our resources, especially those who are having trouble with academic writing. So you can schedule an appointment with the Center of Academic Success. Beth did put their contact information in the chat earlier, but I'm sure we can put it in there again. Instructor feedback. This is really important. A lot of the time, students get frustrated with the grade that they received and they don't understand what happened. A lot of the times, so your professor does provide feedback of what you can do to improve, what kind of happened, and what ways you can overall boost up that grade. So check with your instructor to see if they can provide feedback on a draft with reasonable notice. So if you do have a paper that's say due Sunday, don't give the paper, like don't email your professor on Saturday, say, hey, can you look at my paper? We want to respect the professor's time, and they might not have 24 hours to look at your paper. So like I said, a good academic writing, especially when you are focusing on papers, is getting a second pair of eyes to look at it. So you can look at your instructor. You can always go to the Center of Academic Success. You can go to your advisor. You can have someone else that's close to you read your paper. So again, any feedback is really helpful, but make sure you give professors enough time. And then Grammarly. If anyone has any questions about Grammarly, you can go to the library on Blackboard and help set that up. You all get Grammarly at Premium included in your tuition. Highly recommend that, especially if you are someone like myself who is not really great at overall grammar. So that definitely has helped me so much, especially with spell check. I cannot tell you how many times I cannot spell words. So I do appreciate that feedback. But that is pretty much this workshop. So I am going to keep this up for a couple seconds before I stop sharing my screen and we go through our Q&A, but pretty much tell us how we did. Tell us if you like doing the polls. Tell us if I did a horrible job presenting, or if you want to see more feedback on workshops, if you want new workshops, some old ones, or just anything that we could improve upon, definitely let us know. So I'm just going to keep this up for a couple seconds before I have a drink of water, and then we are going to go through our Q&A before our next workshop.
And we can take about 10 minutes for questions. Don't feel super duper rushed. The next workshop is going to be a lot of examples and kind of going through different things with y'all. It is going to be an overview of some of the slides we already covered about paraphrasing, and then going over some examples ourselves. So it definitely is not going to take as much time as this one did. So please feel free to ask some questions by all means. I am seeing Mary, your hand is up, and Mary, you've been so patient. Your hand's been up this whole time. I'm gonna unmute you.
Thank you, Beth. I'm sorry, my mic was not working. I was like, what is happening?
No, you're so good.
Mary, if you are speaking, we're not able to hear you. Okay, that's okay. While we are waiting for Mary, I totally forgot about this, but this is an Eagles Cup event. So what an Eagles Cup is, it's kind of a contest between all the schools here at Post. So it does include the Burke School, it includes the Arts and Science and Baldrige School of Business. It's pretty much where students come into a workshop. They can sign their name with the link that we are going to send. I should have done this in the very beginning, so I apologize for anyone that came in late. Don't worry, you haven't missed your sign up, but it's a little bit of a competition between the schools. You just put your name in the link that we are going to send, and that will guarantee your attendance. And then at the very end of this contest, the school that has the most attendance gets to pick their charity of choice to donate to whatever charity they want to. I like to think of it, if you are a Harry Potter nerd, it's like a little bit of a competition between the houses. So we're just using schools instead. I completely forgot that it was an Eagles Cup event. So I will get that information over to you guys so you can sign your name and get the credit for doing these. Can someone actually put the Eagles Cup event while I answer Heidi's question? I'm so sorry. Okay, Heidi, I did just allow for your mic if you want to come off mute, and Dan did put information in the chat, so thank you, Dan, but Heidi, you can come off mute and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I can go to the academic writing center, and they'll be able to help me understand, because I am lost with the whole writing thing. I mean, I'm 57. I haven't been in school for forever.
Yeah,
So,
no, you
all right,
sure
thank
can.
you.
Yeah, you can go to the writing center and they can help assist with whatever writing questions you might have.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
And Heidi, I just want to follow up on that. They are going to be really, really helpful in helping you set up a guide. So even when you're done speaking with them, you're going to have a roadmap of how you should be writing your paper. So it's really not, okay, where do I go from here? It's, okay, I just need to now fill in the blanks, and I just need to find some research articles that help me fill in the blanks. And now I just need to
Okay.
paraphrase what I've learned from those research articles, because I'm going to be honest, what you'll learn about academic writing, 9/10 of it isn't actually your ideas. It's people's ideas or people's information supporting your idea. So you don't even have to be the ones coming up with like the initial thought. You just need to be you just need to read it and then paraphrase it. So again, it's not like, hey,
So
creative writing.
research.
Exactly. It's a research
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So, but they will
Awesome.
help you provide get that outline going, and that outline and that thesis are really going to help provide you that roadmap to just get that paper written.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
wonderful.
Thank you.